Welcome to highlights of the penultimate round of the 5th season of the HRZN Racing League from Portugal. I'm Chris, otherwise known as Screamlight, going to be taking you through the action from the Algarve. But before we get into that, let's take a little look at how the season has panned out so far. The Scottish took victories in both the sprint and feature race in Austria to add to his wins in Saudi Arabia, Britain and Miami. Your mate's taken 4 victories, Sandro Button 2, and Tommy Ash has that sprint win back at Imola. Scottish took the sprint victory by 1.1 seconds from Tommy Ash, with Vampire a further 2 tenths back. Jacob, Six Pompano, Syme, Bunny's Vengeance and Senna completed the points picture. While in the feature, the Scottish beat Bunny's Vengeance by 10.8 seconds, with Six Pompano third with a fastest lap. Lil Reeves took driver of the day for a solid result. Jacob, I'm Your Mate, Vampire, Tommy Ash, Bazza, Rover, Andy and Dabasaurus getting the points. And that meant that coming into this one, it was a 23-point gap for I'm Your Mate over the Scottish, with Tommy Ash not far behind. Other movers and shakers include Six Pompano into the top 10 and Andy holding on to the 10th spot. In Split 1, I'm Your Mate leads the way by 30 points over Tommy Ash, the Scottish just behind in third, just 2 behind Tommy, while Syme slips into the relegation zone with Bazza, Andy and Six Pompano just hanging on above it. And in Split 2, Senna leads the way from Perpetual, Jimmy Alex remains third, but Dabasaurus, Lil Reeves and Rover all gain points on the guys in front. While in the Constructors, Ferrari lead RB by 10 points, with Williams in third, Mercedes a further 4 points back, and HRZN Racing now just 3 points behind Red Bull, the reservists closing on an established team. But Portimão, officially known as the Autódromo Internacional do Algarve in Portugal. Let's take a look around this venue that hosted races in 2020 and 2021. It's 4.653 kilometres, 15 turns, 8 to the right, 7 to the left. Most wins in real life go to Prost and Mansell, both 3 wins each. No previous victors in HRZN, we've not raced here before, although Hamilton broke his win record in reality in 2021 here. This circuit very much like a roller coaster, lots of elevation changes, lots of ups and downs. You've already gone up the hill over the start finish line before diving back down into Primeira, turn number 1. It's a double apex right that then leads into a tight hairpin at 3 at Lagos. You can go too far wide and pick up a lot of track limits penalties just through those first 3 corners. But as you swing through 4, if you get a good slingshot and you've got DRS here, you can get a really good run down into Torre VIP, another tight hairpin at turn number 5. Keep it fairly close to the inside and use the apex on the outside to get a nice swing through 6 and down into 7, another double right-hander, where you're slowing up through the first, carrying a bit of pace in the middle, and then really hitting the brakes through Samsung. You go up and over the crest, downhill then into the left-hander at Craig Jones, turn 9, before heading up once again into Portimão and then into turn number 11. Again, back down and back up again through 12 and into 13, another tight left-hand hairpin. Keep it nice and close to the apex. You've got to watch those sausage curves around the circuit, they will catapult you off as you head through 14 at Sagres. You can build the speed a lot through here, and you've got your foot flat to the floor through Galp. This final corner, you'll scrub a little bit off, just turning to the right, but then it's DRS again, up the hill and over the start-finish line. A fairly easy-looking circuit, but one that's very tough to master. Let's take a look at how our drivers lined up for this one. I'm Your Mate took another pole for this season, but he was joined on the front row by Andy Rudin, who had a fantastic lap. Vampire, Tommy Ash, Scornful Griffin, Bazza, Jacob, Senna, Jimmy Alex and Rover completing the top 10. While Perpetual, Bunny's Vengeance, Dabasaurus and Syme completed the 14 set laps in qualifying, the Scottish joined the session late and started from the back. So for the penultimate time this season, let's go racing. but there was already an instant before we'd got to the lights. And not for the first time this season we're on board with Andy in the formation lap. You can see just trying to warm up the tyres. He's already said that they're cold as he comes up over the crest here. Tries to get on the power maybe a touch too early. Swings the car to the right.
Hi guys.
At least he can see the funny side about it. But he gets back on track and has dirty tyres for the start of the race.
I just went right.
1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And away we go in Portugal. Not a long hold whatsoever. Perpetual has already gained a spot off the line, as is Bunny's Vengeance. Rover's going backwards. The Scottish is already 3 up. They are 4 wide at the back. Everybody making moves. Vampire and Scorn fighting in here for third. There's a car off in the side. I don't know who that was. Whoever it was, they're back on track. It was Dabosaurus perhaps. But no, it was Jacob. Jacob in the Red Bull is off, but he's actually still running. He's still running. Here we are. Tommy trying to get round the outside. Scorn and Vampire have connected. Tommy now right in behind them. Let's ride on board with the RB. He has to make moves. He's past Scorn. Great piece of opportunistic drive in there. He's got Vampire up ahead. Andy has kept clean. He's well away from these guys and only 1.1 behind I'm Your Mate. We'll take a look at some start action here. We'll start with Jacob, who was in a little bit of the wars, as we'll see. Gets a decent start, bit of wheel spin, but he's up and alongside Baza and past the Ferrari before he knows it. He knows he's got cars on the inside. Tommy clips the sausage curb, sends him wide, and as Jacob comes across to try and get his line, he collects Senna. He'll just cruise slowly over the grass, make sure that everybody's by before he gets going again. Nearly loses it once again, and you can see that there's a car to the left. That's the Scottish, who we'll see in a bit.
I have everyone just goes off in turn 1.
Let's look at the start from Jacob's perspective. You'll get a little bit of a better view as well of Jacob and Senna. Gets off the line fairly well. A little bit of wheel spin, but the second phase works out really nicely. You can see in the mirror there. Perpetual having a think around the outside, but backs it off as everybody concertinas into one. You'll see the Sauber and the Red Bull up ahead get together, and the Sauber come across Jimmy. He then taps Bowser. Doesn't look too bad, but then he loses the rear end once, starts trying to get on the power again, nearly loses the rear end once again, and you'll see the Scottish sideways behind him.
That's a decent start, good job.
Here we are on pole with I'm Your Mate in the Ferrari. Waiting for the lights, building his revs. Doesn't get as much wheel spin as some of the other guys. Second phase dumps a little bit of battery to cover Andy on the inside. He's clearing away, avoiding all of the drama behind him. Already starting to drop the Haas. Perfect start for the championship leader. Does run and touch wide when it seems track limits, but he's already gone before anybody can take advantage. We'll see that from the other side of the front row in the Haas as well. Quite dark behind the grandstand there. But you'll see I'm Your Mate comes across, and Andy just focusing on his own bit of road. Does very well to cover off the 2 cars behind him. And you'll see I'm Your Mate here gets a little late into Lagos, goes wide. Andy probably had a thought that he'd have a go, but I'm Your Mate's already on the power and gone. But Andy, nice and clean and away from the chasing pack.
Everyone just goes off in turn 1.
We are with Tommy in 4th. Got Vampire on the inside. Seems to bog down off the line a little bit because you'll see the Aston Martin of Scornful Griffin goes absolutely storming by. And past Vampire as well at this point. Little bit of contact off the sausage curb nearly obviously takes Jacob behind him. It's a warning for that collision. Although it was really just a case of into T1 at the start. Stay with Tommy as he gets up behind Scorn. He gets a little nudge on the Aston Martin and starts to think about the move here. And goes late on the brakes. You'll see Scorn goes even later, goes into Vampire. Tommy nearly loses the back end from a tap from behind from Bowser, but then he's round the outside and then on the inside for the next corner to get back past Scornful Griffin. Really heads up driving by Tommy, needing to make moves early doors. Here we are with the Alpine of Bunny's Vengeance further behind. Much like the others, doesn't get too much in the way of wheel spinning. He's passed Rover off the line pretty much instantaneously. There's a melee of cars behind it, but he backs off into turn 1 to avoid any contact, nearly loses the rear, something that everybody seemed to be struggling with here. He watches the incident between Sauber and the Red Bull up ahead, and then Jimmy loses the rear end, gifting him another position. He nearly loses it on the exit. He's up to P7. Good driving by Bunny.
All right, let's focus now for the rest of the race.
Let's ride on board with Baza from 6th on the grid here. Again, much like Bunny and a couple of others, doesn't get too much wheel spin, but bogs down in the second phase. He's got the Senna-Jacob battle around him. He backs off to give them space, and you'll see them two come together right in front of him. Fortunately, as ghosted, else he would have been taken out by the Sauber. Manages to avoid contact with the rear of Tommy, at least there. Then you'll see this almost 3 wide Vampire, Scornful Griffin and Tommy up ahead. Baza will witness Scorn go very deep trying to maintain his position. Maybe slightly distracted, taps the back of Tommy. Doesn't get any damage, doesn't cause anyone to spin. But he maintains 6th position off the start and has actually managed to avoid any major incident. Good start by Baza. Really set him up for the race. And finally here we are with Perpetual down nearer the back of the grid, just outside the top 10. He gets off the line fairly well, although the second phase does bog down a little bit. Gets enough of a launch to try and fight Jimmy Alex on the outside. Doesn't manage to make gains there on that one. And has the Scottish now up the inside. You can see the Sauber off the road, comes back again. Fortunate there's ghosting. You can see Syme actually tapping him just a little bit. And where the Scottish gets caught up behind Jimmy, he clips the back where Jimmy's struggling, loses the rear end. So the Scottish has now gone backwards. Perpetual, though, avoids the incident and has moved into the top 10. Clean start from the McLaren. Senna and Bunny, side to side. There was a lot of this in Austria as well, and Senna trying to just hold it around the outside. Is he going to? No, he's not. Bunny is through. Jimmy behind with Perpetual. Let's go and join that battle. I'm your mate, leading the way. 1.4 seconds clear. Jimmy's going to sweep brain Perpetual there. Great move. But Andy has kept himself clean. In second, will ride up to Tommy. He goes up the inside of Vampire. I thought he clipped the sausage curb. He avoids the Mercedes on the outside. He's still fighting this one as the Scottish moves past Abasaurus. He's going to try the switchback. Great move from Tommy. Scorn's coming through as well, though. There's contact. There's wheel banging. They are going into the fifth corner. Wheel banging away. Tommy still just trying to hold the line, but Scorn's going to go back up the inside at the next one. Scorn is the disruptive influence in this race, that's for sure. Andy's already 2 seconds off the back of I'm Your Mate, but Scorn is 2.5 seconds off Andy.
DRS is now available.
Let's watch that on board with Tommy Ash here. Not quite got the pace to get past Vampire into turn 1 as he's maxed out. Pre-DRS at this point as well. Bounces off the sausage curb and into the side of the Mercedes, but both still pointing in the right direction. Vampire continues to hold the line up the inside at 4. So Tommy backs off, goes for the switchback, really launches it, well executed switchback, but then you'll spot on the outside, there is the Aston Martin. Scorn bouncing off the side of the RB, giving him just enough room here. Scorn, though, maintains the position on the inside into 6, and he's through. Opportunistic by Scorn, but really well driven. No major contact, no major incident. As Baza and Bunny's vengeance go side to side, Bunny's made a great start and has moved forward. Let's ride on board with the Northern Irish driver. Has to back out of that one. Baza having a really great show of it so far. I've got to say, that's a really solid start from Baza. He's kept out of the wars in his fighting. The Scottish moves past Syme further back. He has a lot of catching up to do. What tyres is he running at the moment? The softs as well, so he's on an alternate strategy to a few of these guys. As Perpetual moves up the inside of Jimmy. I'm Your Mate flying a 19.2 with the fastest lap. It's a bit of a DRS train up ahead. I'm Your Mate out on his own. Andy kind of out on his own as well as Buddy goes past Baza. And they're passed cleanly. There's been a bit of wheel banging. Let's ride back with Tommy though. Trying to chase Scorn down, who's cut away as Rover is the first to get a 3-second time penalty early doors. The Scottish now pass Jimmy further back. The Red Bull passes the RB. There is a move going on. It's Bunny on Vampire, and Bunny up the inside. Does he make it? Through the second part of the corner. Baz is trying to go around the outside as well. Oh, Vampire is still there, but he really having to just hold his line, and now Baz is going to go right at the inside of both of them. 3 wide into turn 5, and Baza takes 5th place. Fantastic move as Senna gets passed by the Scottish. Syme goes past Perpetual. Scottish and Senna still going side to side. Vampire's really lost out. He's lost 2 places to both Bunny and Baza. Senna's gone. Senna has spun. There was a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and Senna is shuffled backwards. Let's watch that little battle on board with the Alpine of Bunny's Vengeance. DRS is powerful here, and he's up the inside of Vampire before he gets into turn 1. But Vampire holds it late on the brakes and manages to whip round the outside. Bunny clips the sausage curb, nearly loses the rear end, which gives Vampire the advantage once again. Much like the earlier pass with Tommy, Vampire stays on the inside. Bunny doesn't manage to switch back though. And now all of a sudden, there's a Ferrari on the inside as well. They go 3 wide. And Baza up the inside of both of them. Takes the position. Bunny though does at least gain on Vampire. Really heads up by the 3 of them. Watch that on board with the Ferrari in just a second as well. Here we are then. Through turn 1. Baza's watching all of this unfold in front of him. You can see the wiggle from the Alpine as he clips the sausage curb. We've also got Senna and Scottish in behind us, so this is almost a 5-way scrap. But much like Hakkinen through past Schumacher and Zonta in Belgium, Baza up the inside, gives everybody enough space, and he's through, gains 2 positions. Fantastic driving by Baza. Gap down to 2 seconds, but Andy still holding his own there. 5.1 the gap though out to I'm Your Mate. He's gone. He's checked out at the moment as we go back to the Baza-Bunny battle. Bunny with the DRS is super powerful, but he is also on the soft tyres as we've got the Scottish moving past Vampire. Senna's past Dabasaurus further back. Jacob's also past Dabasaurus. He's had an unfortunate moment with the DRS there in the Aston Martin, but he needs to make it past these guys to stand any chance of keeping up the pressure on I'm Your Mate. Let's see. Will he go for the move here? We'll stay with Bunny. Scottish is going to have a huge DRS advantage, and he's through. Easily through. Is he going to have enough to fight as Tommy's gone past Scorn up ahead? Jacob and Senna switching places further back again. But Tommy has moved into 3rd place. He's now got to chase Andy down. Syme moves past Jimmy further back. We'll go back to the Scottish, who's now chasing... Jimmy's gone backwards. Jimmy has gone backwards. I don't know what's happened. There doesn't appear to be damage.
I wish I could give you guys updates on tyre wear.
Let's see what happened to Jimmy here. He's running fairly well in P9 at the moment as he gets into turn number 3. Nudges the back of Vampire and then loses the rear end once. Tries to get on the power, loses the rear end again, and drops down the order, nearly loses it again on power. And unfortunately for Jimmy, that was kind of the start of what happened for most of the rest of his race.
I didn't.
But let's go back to the Scottish. He's hunting Baza down here, who's 1.3 behind Scorn. He's trying to catch back up to those guys running 3rd and 4th, and he's still on his own in 2nd at the moment. We're hoping it stays that way for a little bit. Let's ride on board with the Scottish. Baza getting a little bit wide. The tyre offset as well here. Baza on the mediums. Scottish on the softs. The DRS is going to come into effect, and he's going to be well past because they're super powerful down the straight, and through he goes. There's less than a standard race win, and with 50 points up for grabs in the final race. 52 if you get driver of the day. I wonder if they're doubled as well. I was going to say driver of the day and fastest lap. I wonder if they're doubled and it's 54, as we've got a yellow flag out there. Oh, Jimmy's lost it. Yeah, Jimmy's lost it. He's off the back on his own now. And he's gone again. I wasn't particularly looking at that. And then he's off the road again. He's lost it again. As Senna and Jacob are going side by side into turn 1. Senna forces his way through that to move up to 11th. Back with Jimmy in the RB, basically at the back at the moment, well ahead of Rover, who's taken an early stop, but then he loses the rear end through here. And much like earlier, just tries to get on the power, nearly loses it once again, and then loses it again. It's almost 3 full spins as he then makes it another one in that little collection, which will leave Rover to get back to him. As I said in the first instant, this happens a lot for Jimmy for the rest of the race. Coached through by 6 Pompana there and manages to finish. Starting to really get to grips, he says, with the no traction control that he was trying to run here. Unfortunate, but a decent circuit to run an extended test. Because the top 9 are all split 1 drivers, so 1 to 9 would be normal points for them as the Scottish has moved past Scorn. The Scottish is past Scorn and he's right up with Tommy now. Jacob and Senna going side to side again. But the Scottish now right behind his championship rival, and neither of them have particularly gained masses of time on Andy, who's just heading into the hairpin there in the Haas. Just needs to keep himself calm with these guys raging behind him. But the Scottish again with DRS. Let's watch this from the overhead. There he goes. He's into 3rd. As Perpetual and Syme further back, battling away. Now, Syme's in the pits. Syme is in. He's the first one to blink. We're at 10 of 33. Senna and Jacob still fighting away back there. Still going side by side. We got another yellow in Sector 3. Jimmy's gone again. He's having a bit of a time of it. Yeah, he's lost it again. Seems to be every time he tries to get on the power after he's spun, he just loses the rear of the car. Same place, 2 laps running. Rover's going to be on the back of him soon.
Race is a bit of a test session for you.
Back with Jimmy here, and as you can hear, 6 Pompano saying that it's here for a test session now as he loses it at the top of the hill once again, just trying to get on the power. As soon as he sets foot on the pedal, the car is just wiggling all over the place. Once again, loses it through. Rover will catch up to the back and go by. But as we get into Galp, he's back, pointing in the right direction. And let's ride on board with the Scottish as he gets DRS up here. He's almost into the back of the Haas. Andy not fighting it too hard. I think he knows that there's not a huge amount he can... Oh, I say that. Keeps his nose in on the outside, but has to cede the position. The Scottish is in P2 as Jimmy's made a mistake in the same place in the next lap as well. He's been passed by Rover. He's all the way off the back of the field. He's not having a good day of it. We've got a yellow in Sector 2. Vampire ghosting. Maybe he's had an issue there, but let's have a little look around. It looks like Jimmy's really just struggling at the moment to keep the car pointing in the right direction. Not sure what's going on there. Let's go back to Andy and Tommy. Tommy now right on the back of the Haas. Hadn't been able to close earlier on, but the medium tyres obviously lasting longer. I think Andy's tyres are starting to drop off because the Scottish has already bolted. He's 2.5 seconds clear as Amy Mate comes into the pits. First of the leaders to blink. Senna and Jacob still battling away further back. We've got a yellow in Sector 3 once again. I think Jacob may have actually had a bit of a coming together as the Scottish is in. Right on board with Jacob. He's about to demonstrate that Jimmy's not the only one having issues with drifting here at Portugal. Heading up the hill in the Red Bull. Gets nicely on the brakes, but then as soon as he goes for the power, rear end snaps and he's round. Fortunately, there's enough runoff to keep well away from the barriers, but he's back on the road now. 13 of 33. I think soft tyre runners will be coming in. We've got a yellow flag out again. It's Jimmy once again. Tommy will be heading up to that section in a minute. Jimmy's going to end up a lap down as we've got Bazza attacking Scorn here. Bazza again on the mediums. I think Scorn on the soft, so his tyres might be going as well. The alternate strategy is Bazza nudges the Aston Martin along. Randy and Scorn are going to come in. Bazza is just all over the back of that Aston Martin. Tommy's in. Andy's in. And Scorn is in. So Bazza now leads. He's got Vampire in behind him for company. As I'm Your Mate closing on Perpetual rapidly. Syme moves past Bunny's Vengeance further back. We're getting to about half distance here as I'm Your Mate loses it on the curbs. Saves it. He keeps going, but that's going to cost him some time. May have also given him a bit of extra wear on those tyres. And see what's happening. They've got Jimmy Alex there as well, who's obviously a lap down. Not having a good day of it, but Senna is out. So we will at least gain one position and move back into 14th place. As these two continue fighting, let's ride on board as Andy... Tommy's going backwards. Tommy's exceeded track limits. He's got a 10-second time penalty, and what has happened to Tommy? We go back to Syme as Bunny's Vengeance goes past him, and then Syme bumps the back of the Alpine. What on earth happened to Tommy? As I'm Your Mate goes past Perpetual. Tommy, all of a sudden, 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. And then his car just sort of appeared. And he's on the hard tyres. I don't know what's happened as Bunny and Syme going at it still. It's kind of the only real close battle on track at the moment. So I'm not really sure what to say about this one. We'll join Tommy as he heads up the start-finish straight, and then all of a sudden, he is completely through the world. We'll watch it from behind him as well, but as you can see, he's been given a 10-second time penalty for track limits, has to reset to get back on the road. The stewards agreed that the 10-second penalty was pretty harsh. There's nothing he could do about it here, so it was removed from his final race result. An unfortunate glitch for Tommy while he's fighting for the title. We'll watch this on board with Andy as well, because it's funny to look at from another perspective, but probably not so entertaining for the person who it happened to. They're just heading out now through into Galp, the final corner. Andy staying with the RB at this point, actually possibly maybe looking for a move with DRS, and then the RB disappears. Crying shame for Tommy, really, because it really messed up his race result, but fortunately the penalty removed. Bazza still leads the way. Bunny and Syme still fighting. This, like I said, I think the only really close battle on track. There's Scottish and Jacob switching positions, both driving Red Bulls, both scoring for other teams, but Scottish now. Net second as it stands. I'm Your Mate trying to close on Vampire and Bazza, who are trying to run this out really long. Both having a really good race of it at the moment. My driver of the day choice is going to be mighty difficult as Simon Bunny still hammer and tongs, one lap after the next, passing each other. Those guys in front of him still need to pit. Let's ride on board. Let's see if he can close up to them. Vampire, though, might be looking for a move on Bazza into Primera. Just shows himself in the mirrors, but nothing major. But I'm Your Mate will stay on board with him. Look how tight he can take these corners compared to the guys in front, and he's already right up behind the Mercedes. I can't imagine Bazza's going to give him too much grief either. Almost runs into the side of Vampire, but keeps it clean. But I don't think Bazza's going to particularly hold him up. He'll see that the other Ferrari's behind him. There he goes to the inside, and he keeps Vampire behind him. Great teamwork by Ferrari, and I'm Your Mate comfortably in the lead of this race, some 7.5 seconds, if not more, clear of the Scottish. Dabasaurus currently holding on to the final points paying position. I think Andy's gone. Andy has spun. Oh no, Andy. Doing so well. Bunny has to take evasive action to get past him. So now Scorn up into 6th, and I think that's net P3. Andy falls behind Bunny, and he's in amongst this battle with Bunny and Syme. Let's ride on board with Andy to watch what happened to him in that particular incident. He's coming through the midsection of the lap into turn number 7. Gets on the power, loses the rear end, something that seemed to be happening to a lot of people in this race. Unfortunate timing for him, as he's battling people who are in the pits. Loses the position to Bunny's Vengeance there, but still on the road, still in the fight. As Bazza and Vampire both pit, but Vampire gets a 10 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. Bazza could be on a really solid result here as the Scottish moves into P2. Jacob moves into P3 for now. Vampire does jump Bazza in the pits there. Possibly. Does he? As we watch these three coming across the line, are they going to get past? Scorn has passed Vampire and Bazza, and he's going to go back on the attack on Bunny though, and he's up the inside, and he's got to go around the outside of Bazza. That's going to compromise his move, and it has. They are almost 3 wide. Andy falls behind Syme. He's got to fight this one though, because he's been driving so well today. Bazza and Vampire have jumped all of them. Right to unpack from all of that. Let's start with Bazza and Vampire's pit entry. I was speculating that Vampire had made the jump in the pits. Bazza getting on the brakes nice and early, easy to get a 10-second penalty, which is exactly what Vampire does, not getting on the brakes early enough, but he does actually manage to get by the Ferrari. So another pit entry pass to add to others this season, and as you can see, as we leave the pits, there's Vampire. But let's look at the cluster into turn 1, really. Here comes Andy. He's got DRS on Bunny's Vengeance and trying to fight back after losing it the lap before. And he's past the Alpine, but you'll see to the right-hand side, there's the Ferrari. Has to get very wide on turn entry. Cedes one position to Bazza, cedes another to Bunny's Vengeance, and then Syme is also up the inside. Unlucky for Andy into turn 1, but let's look at it from Bunny's perspective as well, because you'll see as we get up and over the crest of the start-finish line. There's Andy going up the inside, and then there's the other two exiting the pits. You see he's having to just get completely out of the way, which gives Bunny an open door to get through, and he maintains his position.
And there's a field back and ninth place.
That's Tommy, I think, closing on Perpetual a bit further back. So Tommy up the inside of Perpetual. He's probably driving with a little bit of red mist for whatever happened to him as well, which is fair enough as Syme falls to 12th but will remain in the points. So Sabre will at least be coming out of this with a point as Tommy gets a 3 seconds for for multiple warnings. Jacob still yet to pit as Bazza and Scorn going side by side. Scorn's caught back up to the Ferrari. Bazza tries to hang it around the outside. Is he going to keep it there? Not quite. Scorn will make it through. But let's ride on board with the Ferrari. Vampire watching this one intently. Scorn cannot seem to get the traction off that corner before gunning it to the line, so it does cost Bazza a little bit of time. DRS though, super powerful. There it is. It is open. He should be able to fire out the inside of Scorn before the breaking point, and does. Good move there by Bazza. Andy's done the same to Bunny, I think, but much earlier on. So Andy's through back up into P7. And Perpetual and Tommy still going side by side. Perpetual holding that. It does, like I said, it does look to be pixel perfect here for track limits, which is costing a few of these guys. As Tommy goes up the inside of Perpetual, Andy sweeps around the outside there. There's a yellow in sector 3 as Andy and Bunny going side by side further up the road. They're still running side by side. Andy trying to hold it on the inside. Bunny sweeps round and he's lost a bit of front wing. Oh, that was close. Let's look at that little battle between Bazza and Scorn from on board with the Ferrari. You can see here he's got the tyre advantage on the Aston Martin. Really got great traction. Tries the shallow line here at the inside, but Scorn wise to it and keeps his car position nicely. As they climb up the hill, it really leaves Bazza left out on the outside. Tries the switch back before they head into the final couple of corners. Scorn though, once again wise to it, having to be pushed along a touch because the Ferrari has such better traction at this stage. Does cost Bazza a little bit of time, but he knows DRS is coming and he's going to have a massive advantage at the start finish straight into Premiere. Gets on the DRS, doesn't worry about dumping battery until midway through the straight, just enough to nudge him past the Aston Martin. He's at the inside turn number 1. Great driving by both of them. Great overtake by Baza. Let's jump back to Bunny's Vengeance, who's still battling with Andy here. Andy goes on by. Fairly clean and easy DRS overtake. But Bunny, staying in behind the Haas, thinks he's got an opportunity here. Andy runs a little wide through Lagos, which compromises entry into turn 4, which gives Bunny the opportunity to come back at him, which he does. DRS into Toro VIP, Andy holding it on the outside. Bunny nearly losing the rear end, and once again they go side by side through 6 and up into 7. Bunny though sweeps round the outside. Andy has to give that one up, at least for now, even with Bunny's little kick of oversteer. Little nudge from Andy behind. But both survive and carry on with their race.
I can see how much.
Let's go back to Tommy and Perpetual, who are third back in the field. At this point, Perpetual goes up the inside of the RB and the McLaren with the DRS. Again, fairly easy DRS overtake. Much like Bunny in the previous clips, though, Tommy thinks he's got another opportunity. Earlier this time, though, very late on the brakes into Lagos, and he's back past Perpetual before they're on this DRS straight. Perpetual, though, with the DRS can come back at the RB, though chooses not to into Toro VIP. Tommy holding the advantage for now, although this battle will rage on.
But it feels like it's not really got much from the RPM.
Let's look at that from Perpetual's perspective, because he thinks he's got the move done here. He thinks it's all complete and finished as he heads into Premiera. Goes through the double right here into turn 2, takes a shallow line but then leaves the door wide open into Lagos. Tommy with a really late braking manoeuvre to get back at the inside. Has the DRS into Toro VIP, but Tommy just has the pace on the McLaren. And he backs it off a little bit earlier just to avoid any incident. Perpetual leaves that position for the RB. As we'll go to Vampire and Scorn, they're going to be battling into turn 1. Scorn goes up the inside, nice and easy. And he's damaged. Does appear to be affecting him a little bit, but not that much. Tommy, 5.6 behind him, will be trying to chase him down. Vampire and Scorn, I think, are going to go side to side again into turn number 5. Vampire, tyre advantage, DRS, late on the brakes, and he squeezes through. This is all handing the advantage to Baza. Andy has fallen off the back of Bunny as Perpetual goes past Tommy. There's me, no battles on track. Tommy's going to try and swing it back at the inside and does. Perpetual got wide through turn 1. And that gave the RB the opportunity to swing back up the inside. It's very much the only real battle on track. Scorn and Vampire have stayed pretty solid for a lot of this race.
Yeah. But
let's take a look at Perpetual and Tommy once again battling into turn number 1 just at the start of lap 30. Perpetual once again with the DRS absolutely flies past but gets his braking point all wrong with a shallow entry. Runs wide and Tommy has to just back off to swing back at the inside. As he says, he's losing time in this battle. But he's past the McLaren and back in front of him once again. Let's look at that from Perpetual's perspective. A bit further back through Galp here. He's a little bit further behind Tommy than he has been previously, but knows he's going to get the DRS into turn number 1. It is such an overspeed here. But as you can see, very late in the day he's passed it. He tries to brake later. Can't get the car stopped, runs straight off the road. Tommy's back through and he loses that one. Jacob now on the back of Perpetual and Tommy as we've got a yellow in sector 3. It is the other RB across the track once again. There he is. Not having a good time of it on the hard tyres. It's Scorn and Vampire now deciding to spice things up with a couple of laps left. Scorn goes back past Vampire. He's 4 seconds off Baza. Perpetual now with a 10-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Let's see how Perpetual got that 10 seconds, shall we? Heading up here into the final few corners of the lap, I'll see there's a yellow flag out for Jimmy Alex, slowly moving back up to speed. And then he's asked to give the position back. Yes, he's lapped Jimmy, but yellow flags are the same for everybody. Perpetual decides to not hand the position back. Jacob's also gone by Jimmy, so it'll make it more complicated. But as he crosses the line, the 10-second penalty is issued. It was appealed, but as has been said before, in-game penalties are not removed unless it's an extenuating circumstance. Perpetual then loses the rear end. Jacob goes on by as well to compound. Where are these penalties coming from tonight? As he almost loses it off turn 1, and Jacob gets an easy pass. Jacob now will go after Tommy. I think he's got the pace on these guys, fresher, faster tyres. Jacob should have this done, I think, with DRS. We've got yellow in sector 3. Vampire now with a 3-second time penalty, so he's falling further back as Jacob passes the RB and is through. He's into P8, and he's 1.8 seconds away from Andy. You might catch him with not a lot left of the race as we get to Vampire and Scorn. Scorn really late on the brakes to hold the line, and Vampire cannot get back past, costing each other time. They're 5 seconds off Baza, so that third place I think is wrapped up as long as he keeps it on the road. But we'll watch I'm Your Mate start the final lap of this Grand Prix. He's 10 seconds clear of the Scottish. It's been smooth sailing for I'm Your Mate, although we did see him lose the rear end and nearly take himself out earlier on. Other than that, he's been fairly unaffected. Is he listening? He decides to drift around turn 3. But he's been fairly unaffected by everything out on his own at the front. It's been an imperious drive from the defending champion, who is, I'd say, possibly at this point now got one hand on Season 5's trophy as well. He'll be the first defending champions. Jacob nets a 3-second time penalty. Andy, at the moment, is going to be gaining a couple of places, I think, with other people's penalties. As Jacob closes up to the back of him, he's going to go for the move into turn 1, is he? Yes, he is. He's through. Well, that's him done. As we've got Scorn and Vampire still fighting away. I want to go back to I'm Your Mate before the race is done. Vampire looks at the inside, but he's not going to make it. As I said, this looks like this could be the day he puts one hand on the trophy for Season 5 to possibly become our first back-to-back champion, our first multiple champion, but he crosses the line to win in Portugal. The Scottish comes round Galp to take second place from 15th on the grid. Really great driving from him, and then Baza much further back, but has navigated everything that this race has thrown at him, qualified really well, kept himself right in it as Tommy nets a 3 seconds. Rover did just a moment ago as well, but third place for Baza. He'll cross the line to take a podium spot. Scorn will come home 4th. Vampire will follow him home, but has time penalties to contend with. 10-second time penalty there, the unserved, which puts him 13 seconds behind Scorn as Bunny crosses the line and takes 5th off of him. Jacob also takes 6th off of him. Andy takes 6th off Jacob. Perpetual has a 10-second penalty as well, so it's I'm Your Mate, Scottish, Baza, Scorn, Bunny, Andy, Jacob, Vampire. Syme jumps Tommy because of a time penalty. Jimmy crosses the line. Perpetual is 11th. Dabosaurus will take P12. Rover P13. So that was the penultimate race of the 5th season. Let's take a look at the classified results. I'm Your Mate takes the victory by 7.7 over the Scottish, who got fastest lap. Scorn is elevated to 3rd because Baza's 5-second penalty overhanging from the last race. Bunny's Vengeance, Andy Rudin, Jacob, Vampire, Tommy, Syme, Perpetual and Dabosaurus complete points. I'm Your Mate now leads by 29 points going into the final round over the Scottish. Tommy a little bit further back, but not out of it yet. No other real movers and shakers in the overall standings. I'm Your Mate now leads the Scottish by a fairly comfortable margin with Tommy in 3rd. Vampire and Bunny's Vengeance now both past 100 points. Sign remains in the relegation zone, but Baza has closed right up. Double points in the final round could be pivotal. Senna didn't finish, but maintains the lead in split 2, with Perpetual gaining a few points. Jimmy and now Dabasaurus past the 100 points barrier. Rover fairly comfortably away from Pickle and Mago, but only a point ahead of Lil Reeves. And Ferrari lead the way in the constructors over RB. Williams now just a point further behind, with Mercedes in 4th, and Horizon Racing, the reservists, move into P10 ahead of Red Bull. Thank you so much for joining me for the highlights for this one. One more round to go, and it's a double points finale at Abu Dhabi. Who will take the titles? Join me on the next highlights to find out. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Take care of yourselves. See you on the next one.